Somebody's starting.
All right.
Yeah, we good.
Yeah. Go.
All right,
talk,
let's go.
Mike's
You
on.
live.
All right. Oh, we are? Shit, I ain't know. It's on him. You started off. Go ahead.
Hey, my fault. Good afternoon. Welcome to another wonderful podcast with Athena Protection Services. Sorry about that intro. We just enjoying ourselves on this Saturday afternoon. As you can see, we got a full house.
Yeah, they don't know how to act today.
If you look across the table from, we most definitely got a distraction in the house today. We'll start introducing everybody in just a moment. But before we get started, I want to tell our listeners how they can get in touch with us. Dan?
Absolutely. You can, we are Athena Protection Service, and you can get in touch with us on our website at athenaprotections.com. You can give us a call on our 1-800 number at 800-951-4866. That's 1-800-951-4866. Or you can reach us on all social media platforms at Athena Protection Service.
All right, make sure you hit that like and that share button on all of those for us. And let's talk about our sponsor.
That's right. That is Athena Protection Foundation. The foundation is geared towards assisting crime victims, and you can reach us at any social media platform at Athena Protection Foundation, or you can reach us on our website at athenaprotectionfnd.org.
All right, awesome. So we got our resident guest in the building with us, Marlon, to the left of me.
Howdy, howdy.
Hey. And then we got a couple of, got a returning guest, and we got a new guest in the building tonight. But before we introduce them, I introduce myself again, Carl, part of Athena Protection. So to the right of me, we got a returning guest. He was actually here last week. Mike, welcome back again, man.
How you doing, man?
Good.
Glad to be back.
Awesome. We had a good time last week, and looking forward to finishing up some of that conversation.
Yes, sir.
And then next to you across the table, the one and only Lovely. Introduce yourself.
Shay Carey.
Shay Carey. There's so much more to her than that. Don't let her fool you, guys. Don't let her fool you.
Here we go.
Right. So, as my man Uncle Murder say, what y'all want to talk about today?
All right. So we're going to get started. What we're going to do is kind of continue off of what we was doing last week. So I'm going to do a quick recap, and Mike, you interject if I get any of this wrong.
Okay.
So we talked to Mike. He was in prison for a tremendously long period of time for his first offense. So we started off, childhood was rough, which he described a laundry list of victimizations during his childhood. Shot, had several fights, helping his brother deal with older people. Parents became addicted to crack in the mid-1980s, ended up in foster care and group homes. Education was limited to middle school. He ended up having a baby at the age of 17. Arrested for his first offense at 18, sentenced, ended up sentenced to 20 years in prison for that first offense. Talked about his initial entry into the county jail where he lost his first 8 fights because he was a small guy, around 130 pounds, being picked on when he initially got in there. Then he was transferred to prison, pretty much isolated. And then from there, he went on to different things about the system being flawed. So to continue on, what I wanted to know was, and we're going to just jump right into it, what were those first nights in prison like for you? What was going through your mind? What emotions did you have? And where were you at a particular state of mind, knowing that I'm getting ready to be here for an extended period of time?
For everybody who didn't watch last week, my name is Mike. Those first nights, like when I first got to prison, I was still fighting the system. So it was like I was looking towards my appeals and things like that. So I never really gave in to the notion I'm gonna do all this time. I had the time that I was sentenced to, and then I had the time that I felt like even if they uphold the sentence, you know, my guidelines was 0 to 20. So I was thinking, you know, I had in my mind at that time sentence reductions, bringing back good time. You know, I gave myself hope. I never looked at it like, oh, I'm going to be here till 2016. It was 1998, 99. So,
Okay.
You know, but we was talking about the victimization. And one of the things that do to you, like, I never looked at myself as being a victim per se, but the things I went through, what it really did was kind of desensitize me to a lot of stuff. So it was like, I wasn't sad, I wasn't depressed, and those things, because those emotions just was not useful.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it wouldn't have got me nowhere. It was more like full steam ahead with me. It is what it is. I was trying to get out.
So, the whole time.
Yeah.
You had that
like,
faith.
Let me get to this law library, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Let me ask you a quick question. When you say you went to the library, you started studying the law yourself?
Yeah, I started doing that in the county jail. I was in the county jail almost 2 years. I was in the law library the whole time.
Okay.
Because, you know, like I said, I was the youngest person on my case, and my 2 co-defendants, you know, even though one came to the county after me, the knowledge was passed down to get to this library, look up your own case. You got to fight for yourself.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, you got a court appointed.
Right. We talked about that a little bit last week.
Right. Well, hell, even some of these lawyers you pay for ain't about nothing.
I mean, you know, like, in the kind of case I had, if anything that's like robbery, homicide, a real lawyer, they charge about an hour. You're not gonna get one for 5, 10, or 15,000. So getting a real good defense out of a lawyer in my situation would have costed way too much money. So it was my fight. So yeah.
Okay. So all right, I'm going to go to next here. You talked about the system being flawed, where the process is supposed to serve blind justice. But you said that they didn't look at you at all. They didn't take a look at anything about you and consider that when they gave you your sentence.
Yeah. Well, now, you can't get a judge to agree to that. But
before you jump into that, I looked at a couple things that I wanted to point out. How many of y'all remember Brock Turner from, what was this? He was at a college in California, rape case. He got caught raping a girl outside. Who was
one team guy?
How long ago was this?
This was a couple years ago, 2017 maybe. Caught raping a girl, Stanford University. He was on the swim team.
Okay, I heard a little bit about that.
The judge gave him a 6-month sentence for that charge.
Right.
Because he had a promising future. That's a judge looking at the guy's history, looking at his future, and then giving him a life sentence. The judge ultimately, that particular case, you don't give somebody 6 months in jail. That judge ended up getting recalled by the people, and then they ended up changing the laws.
Great.
In another situation in Tennessee, a guy named Ethan Couch, 16, ended up killing, I think, drunk driving, killed 4 people, injured 2 other people. But his defense attorney argued that he was too rich to have a sense of the consequences of what he was doing.
I remember that one.
And he ended up getting some light time.
What was the terminology they used for that?
Affluenza.
Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah.
I thought that was another one of those viruses.
Right.
Yeah. Affluenza. So his privilege, he didn't have knowledge of his behavior or his
concept of right or wrong.
Right. He didn't have a concept of.
So he murdered 4 people, injured 2 people, and got 10 years probation.
Drinking and driving, wasn't it?
Yeah. So to say, us sitting here to say that they don't consider your past or your life is complete bullshit, because they do it. We've seen them do it before.
Mm-hmm.
But then why were you not considered?
That static is probably somebody's phone too close to a microphone cable.
Well,
there we go.
So
it was you.
Okay, I'll take that. So when you pointed that out, I thought that was interesting. So I went and looked at a couple of different situations, and that's what I ended up seeing. That judges can and will sometimes consider the person's history, the situation that they're in, and whatever they've been going through, and base the sentencing off of that. But that didn't really happen with you, and they ended up giving you the most time that they could possibly give you.
Yeah.
And even in thinking of politics today, we can look at Roger Stone, who was guilty of several federal crimes, who was suggested that he get something, and then we don't know what the judge gonna do yet, but you know,
It's
you got
obvious.
the justice system intervening on his case. So that's just, I thought that was interesting when we was talking to you about that.
Well, that's like, if you want to look at it, you can kind of say that that's another form of victimization, but it's mental. It's just another way that you mentally show young black males they value when it comes to the system. Because the day I got sentenced, it was this little white kid. He had robbed a bar, actually fired the gun in the bar, shot the mirror out, bar full of people. And he got like 5 years. I went in there right behind him and got 17 to 30.
Now, let me ask you a question.
So-
I don't know if you, if we talked about last week, or without even going into details, just in comparison. Was any weapons fired
Yeah,
in the case that you was involved in?
yeah.
So it was very similar to what you noticed with this other.
Yes.
gentleman.
Somebody actually got shot in my case in the ass, buttocks.
Okay.
So,
Not to make light of it. I'm sorry.
no, I mean, it happened. Like I told you
Right.
last week, it was violent.
Exactly.
It's not
understand.
like I had the kind of case that I should have went home.
Right.
Once
And you
they
went in
found me
understanding
guilty,
that.
Right.
The taxpayers would be appalled if you just send this guy home because he's young. And
Right.
then, you know, it was.
So you knew you was going to do some time, but
Yeah.
looking at cases coming before you, literally, you anticipated.
I mean, to be honest, when I got found guilty and I was waiting for sentencing, like I was telling my people they probably gonna give me 10 years.
Okay.
Because I was kind of figuring, I got found not guilty of any aspect of the actual shooting. So they wasn't gonna never sentence me for the guy getting shot in the butt. But since it was part of the crime, it still would be considered in the sentencing guidelines.
Okay.
So due to that aspect, I was figuring like 10 years was like
Your
what I was
ceiling.
thinking.
The most.
Yeah,
You was looking at that
because
as the
my
ceiling.
guidelines are 0 to 20, but the 2 flat for the firearm, it's just what it is. It's 24 months. So I'm like,
Absolutely.
they might give me 10 plus 2 or 8 plus 2 or something like that.
Okay.
But you know, that ain't happening.
Right.
But yeah, like I said, if you look at like me being a victim, I never played that role.
Understand.
You know, I've watched my mama get robbed. I've watched and seen and been around, like, when I was a kid, other little kids getting shot. And I'm talking about, like, little babies just at the
Wow.
store, shot with 12 gauges in the face. All this do is desensitize you. When they give this dude 5 years and they give you 17 years, you go to prison with the thought, like, I'm just not really worth shit. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? This is what it does. It makes you, like, people always say, I don't give a fuck, I don't give a fuck. It make you. A lot of stuff you go through, even if it's not like, you're not a victim, so to speak, to where you having night flashes and flashbacks and you waking up, oh, you're not that type of victim. You're not going to cry or shed a tear. But you're a victim when it comes to your ideal of how you see yourself because you're still young and impressionable. Your mind's still developing. You still don't know who or what you are.
Right.
So when the system and all these other institutions and people and educated judges, lawyers, if everybody telling you ain't shit,
What you gonna think?
then you look at what you went through with your own parents and your living situation and your family. Because in our community, in capitalist societies, period, your assets and money is more important than your little cousins and stuff.
Absolutely.
So you're not gonna sacrifice nothing.
So how did you actually feel? What was your feeling towards yourself?
My feelings towards myself was like, I just had to make it.
But
it
did
was
you?
like-
Was it a point you felt like, man, I ain't shit? Where am I going? Because what you're telling me is, or what I'm hearing, I was abandoned at every point in my life.
Period.
You know, when I was little, my mother was on drugs. My father was on drugs. They had me out on the street. nobody took me in. I ended up in foster care. You know what I'm saying? Then you like, I'm out here fending for myself. I know for a fact that you had to make it going fishing or shoveling snow, cutting grass, doing all the things that I remember you showing me how to do.
Yeah.
And then you out here on your own. So, and even in going to prison and you with your brother who can't even help protect you and you dealing with things that you're not necessarily used to dealing with, where did that sense of abandonment put you at mentally? Where you like, I'm by myself and I got to fight my way out of this. Like, what was you feeling like?
It was more like it was a survival. It was just I gotta make it out. And then you know, I wasn't sentenced to natural life. And like I said, I was never like viewing myself as a victim. And I wasn't about to start being there in the prison.
Right.
You know. So I actually had to sit back and think about it. And I feel like the whole circumstances surrounding that situation, what it did to me was like, it made me lose feeling even more.
Okay.
So, you know, they got a saying in prison, life cheap. That's what they do to you.
Right.
You make it feel like it's not really worth much. Like, life is cheap. $100 to get this dude whacked. You know what I'm saying? That's the price. And then if you in that cycle, whether you the one getting whacked or doing the whacker, the value of your life is $100. Because if you take the $100 or somebody is paying $100, this is the value of you and your life. This is what you're worth. So to society, I mean, it's like, that's pretty much what they tell you.
Right.
And then it's like, I guess, mentally, it would take a minute for me to break down that type of stuff. Because I done read too many books, so I'll be trying to like come up with a solution or like figure out for real.
Well, see, that was what I was gonna say.
I never thought of it from that aspect until last week.
Okay.
What's the solution for all of this? Because like I said, this makes no sense whatsoever. I'm like, they put you in jail because you're supposed to teach you a lesson, but then you wind up, you go in one way, come out another, and not necessarily a good way. So I'm like, so what are we supposed to do? Because like I said, just from what he's saying, or even just from my own personal experiences, when you talk to them, well, they don't care about you. And I'm like, that's what they're telling you, the judges don't care. I'm looking like, what am I paying you for? What's going on? I'm like, there's a set of laws here, or, this is my case and this is what's happening. Okay, we got to make a decision based on that, not just let's make a deal.
Right.
Or the prosecutors got to prove some stuff. I'm like, well, what's going on with this? And this is going on all over the country, and nobody's doing nothing because basically it's just affecting. I'm not going to even say black people. I'm going to say poor people.
Right.
So I'm like,
oh no, it's affecting black people.
Well, I mean,
black and brown.
It
wouldn't be an industrial complex without black and brown.
Right.
It'd just be a prison system. It's an industrial complex because they're warehousing and shipping generation after generations of black and brown people through it.
Let me put the numbers on you for you to look at.
Look, man, I was trying to leave. I was like, look,
I get it.
Most of us
sugarcoated.
Black, brown, but like I said, even if you white and you ain't got no money, you in this too.
They in it too.
Like I said, if you ain't got no money,
but they privilege put them in a position where they don't.
They don't. If you got that affluenza, you can get 10 years probation.
Well, I even say now, just to interject, and we talked about this a time or two before, and I'll just briefly go over it. With our current state of what we call crisis, with the heroin epidemic, or as we like to say, the what is it that everybody seems to be on now, coming from the suburbs, the pain pills turning into the heroin addiction.
Right.
And now the way it's looked at is because it's affecting not the urban areas, it's affecting the suburban area. Now the attitude is totally different in the sense that we see this as an issue that we need to heal these people and not throw them under the jail, which we know when we talk about Mike's situation, this was the 80s. We know this is the beginning of the crack era. I'm talking about when we talk about your parents and
the super predator, when they labeled us the super predator.
When your parents unfortunately got hooked on
the Reagan era,
the crack, and because we can't just look at you as the individual. We do in the justice system, but in my opinion, I think we got to look at like you said, where you came from, your background. Dan and I talked about this a few podcasts ago. We said growing up in the environment where a lot of criminal activity is going on, you become a victim of that. But just my point was saying that, now, as a society, I feel like due to what the current drug epidemic is, there's a little more compassion. And that's what we have to keep on screaming as us, as black people. We need to keep on screaming for that equality, because the numbers are staggering. You put those numbers in front of me and I just flipped it over because the shit makes me sick.
Yeah.
So again, I have to get on my soapbox once an episode.
That's cool.
Hey, that's
but
cool.
we talking about a serious situation in Michigan.
Right.
Not like this is all over the country. We got a $1.2 billion budget to lock people up here, and that's an issue. But
lock them up and not educate them.
Yeah, but then again, like he said, there's
you spending $1.2 billion, but there's no trades, there's no college in prison.
Communities that thrive off the prison system, period. So, but then, what they doing for the prisoners, where all this money going?
Exactly.
And we looked at it as $30,000 a year to house each prisoner. And that's a ton of money. That's a ton of money.
But like I said, I'm like, how many people know about this? And I'm like, it's a lot. And I'm like, again, what are we gonna do about it? What are we gonna do? There's a lot of stuff that's going on out here, and it's like a few people that have the information and try to share it with everybody, but it don't seem like anybody give a damn. So I'm like, what are we supposed to do?
We'll start with stuff like this. Just everyday people like us sitting down and, for our, millions of listeners out there, get opportunity to see things from a different light. Because I guarantee you, if you were to, you grow up in these suburban environments, all you see is this guy had the galls to go out there and not only rob somebody, but in the act of the robbery, fire and actually shoot one of the victims.
Right.
And yes, terrible crime. I don't think at no point did Mike ever say or deny the fact that the crime was, something that was, deserving of minimum sentencing. But again, when we look at how we got there, can we get to a point where we start figuring this out?
The bad part, I'm wasn't here last week, but just hearing the little bit I know, for him to commit a crime at 17, regardless of what the law say, he was still a kid.
And we talked about that, so awesome
he
point.
He wasn't a man yet. So to me, to throw somebody into a situation where they're in a prison system with a bunch of men who are probably going to be there for a while, and even if he was sentenced to something lower than 20 years, it's like, what do you expect him to come out as at 17?
Right.
It is appalling that they would do that for the simple fact that he's a black male or poor or any of that. And it's appalling that, based on your economic status is how you're sentenced or how you are dealt with in the justice system.
I agree with you.
But unfortunately, that's the way things are. Can they be changed? Yes. But it's going to take a bunch of people from a bunch of different arenas. Just like he said, nobody in his situation at 17 can pay $250 or $300 or $500 an hour for a good attorney to get them off.
Mm-hmm.
And not saying that good attorneys are not worth that. But it's like, let's be real.
Right.
If I can't afford a good attorney, that means I'm up shit's creek. Like, that's not even cool.
Yeah.
Or then I have to deal with a court-appointed attorney who gives less than a shit about me. They're gonna get a check regardless.
Right. We talked about that last week. What'd you say?
Yeah.
Mike, I think you mentioned
the best attorney that money can't buy.
Right. We said there's nothing for quarter pointer to have, upwards of, if I'm not mistaken, 60 to 70 cases.
Yeah.
Active.
So how are they supposed to know?
Every day that lawyer is in a courtroom 3 to 4 times a day in the morning with 3 or 4 different dudes in various states of pretrial. And to even believe that this lawyer, court-appointed lawyer, no matter what their intentions is or whatever, have the time of day to pay attention to all these cases. Now, these cases carry life. These is not, they didn't go and steal some bread. These dudes fighting for their life, and you putting them in a case file with a bunch of other people, and your lawyer probably don't know your middle name. But this been your lawyer for 12 or 13 months.
Wow.
14 months, They don't have enough time to shepherdize every case within your parameter of the motion you are filing that day. They don't have enough time to see if an independent investigator or analyst is due or necessary to go through the evidence in your case.
Right.
They don't have enough time to see if it's to call a psychologist in for your sentencing and tell the judge, explain to the judge why your upbringing had put you in a mental situation where you wasn't seeing, or like they said, the one dude had influenza. What have you been so poor and so not taken care of by your parents that you just grew a wild like a weed? So you don't have the same thing. It's not from privilege. It's from the lack of guidance. You don't have the same understanding of concept of right or wrong as the influenza dude. Yours is just because you was raised wrong.
Right, and you talked about something, and I didn't realize this last week. We was kind of going through the timeline, and Dan, you talked about a little bit at the intro here. We forgetting too. Had a baby at 17.
Right.
Not a year later, just turning 18. Why wasn't those things, considered and talked about?
Right.
Part of why you. I mean, obviously, I know because I understand, and I've been there, and I've had close relatives, other than yourself, that went through the same thing at a young age. You, as a male, you have a kid, and what do we teach and try to preach to our young males all the way when they're 5 and 6 years old? We tell them you got to learn how to be a man.
Right.
So you out here trying to be a man because that's what you're supposed to do, and you got a baby. I mean, first of all, 17, which all of us can, if you don't know somebody, you've heard of, teenagers having babies. I think they even made a TV show for one of the stations. I won't get credit for it this time, but just talk a little bit about that. Not to switch gears, but just where your mind was at after having that baby.
Well, that goes into when you talk about the sense of guidelines, looking at the offense and the offender. Me as the offender in the circumstances, I was, like she said, I wasn't a man yet. And we said the same thing last
talked about
week.
it. We
That
sure
your
did.
son, even though he's of age, he's an adult male, he's not a man yet mentally. I was attempting to provide for my girl and my son.
Absolutely.
And the other people that was in my household, if I can, with a 7th grade education.
Right.
In an environment where if you wasn't selling crack, I mean, like that was a time when crack was really selling, so it's money everywhere. So I'm faced, our youth, even today, they're faced with a lot of responsibilities because their age say they're grown. Their knowledge and understanding of life, economics, and things like that say you still a boy. But when if they make the wrong mistake, the absolute wrong mistake, and they can be drinking and driving. If you make the wrong mistake and something outside of your control happens as a result of your choices, your immature choices, the judges is not going to say, well, they don't look at the fact that he was trying to provide. Like my son slept in the same bed with me every day until I left the street. So it was never a situation where I was not providing for my son what I could with my limited resources and knowledge.
Absolutely.
So that absolutely plays a part in every decision I made. as far as when it comes to getting money back then, because I took my money home.
Right.
You know, so yes, but did the judge ever consider that? I doubt it.
Right.
No, mind you, that should have been a major consideration for the simple fact of, old boy with influenza. Okay, yeah, you grew up in a household with a bunch of money. And just like I normally say, some, not all, but you grew up in a house of money where you was probably catered to hand and foot.
Right.
Then you had the other side of the spectrum, which would be him. He's out here with a 7th grade education. How you expect somebody with a 7th grade education to make a adult decision, and they're not an adult? They don't even have the education at the age that they are that they should have. You know, the environment that they live in is not sustainable or encouraging for someone to use what we would call common sense, which ain't common.
Exactly.
It's like you looking at the wrong things with because you got money. No, if you are the less fortunate, I think that those are the aspects that need to be looked upon, because, I mean, if you got to choose between robbing a store or robbing somebody and feeding your family versus, okay, I've been out here trying to get a job. I can't. I'm 17. Who gonna hire me? I have no
middle
experience,
school education.
have no education. Like, which direction do you turn then? And
Right.
it's like, okay, at that junction, the decision to put him in jail for 20 years didn't answer the problem.
Absolutely.
Like, that literally just multiplied it. Because now he has a son out here who don't see him in the capacity that he should.
Absolutely.
20 years. But then now the cycle would perpetually still happen. Like, who's to say that his son would make the same decision based on the environment that he's in, based on where they put him at? Because, I mean, I would hope and pray that if he had 2 years, let's say that, and he came back out, his son is 2 years old, still old enough, small enough where he can redirect him and guide him.
His life.
Yeah, and help him not make the same mistakes. That would have been more dynamic in changing his impact on society, his son's impact on society, the constant repetitive cycle of, oh, well, okay, I ended up in jail. I had a baby before I went to jail. My baby don't ever see me, or somebody else raise him. Any of that. Like, that, they could have totally changed his life and his kid's life. But instead, he was sentenced to, and I don't know the whole, circumference of the
17
situation.
to 30.
But it's like, dude.
Well, before we move forward on that, thanks, Shay, for those comments. Most definitely bring up some great points. Appreciate that. For anybody that just joined us today, Dan, tell them how they can get in touch with us.
Absolutely. You can get in touch with us on our 1-800 number at 800-951-4866. That's 1-800-951-4866. Or you can reach us on any social media platform at Athena Protection Service or on our website at athenaprotections.com.
And on those social media sites, folks, make sure you're hitting that like button and that share button. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So again, talking to Mike, part 2 of the conversation that started last week. Dan, what other questions that you have?
I want to know when you got out of prison, what was your adjustment like, and what was your coping mechanisms that you used in adjusting and getting used to being around people, and your
son, I guess.
Yeah, your son, your circumstances. What was that situation like coming back? Did it meet your expectations, or did it miss the mark? Did you feel like people didn't do what you felt like they should have done to help you out?
Well, I feel like I'm still coping. I'm still adjusting because, everything I do is, I can go do something right now today and it's completely new to me because there's so much out here.
Like what?
Like anything I ain't never done. We went to Twin Peaks last week. Never been there. You know what I'm saying? It's like the average stuff, and I explain this to my girl. You spent your 20s and 30s, living life, learning, getting all these experiences. Basically, I have 3 years of life experience, and I'm 41. As an adult in society,
right?
I got 3 years. You know, I worked a lot, especially my first 2 years before I injured my neck. I worked a lot, so I wasn't doing nothing. I wasn't experiencing nothing. So I'm still adjusting. I'm still coping. When I left prison, I knew the financial and economic situation of my family. I didn't expect much, you know, because everybody have a life. So I felt like my family structure was solid because they did what they could. I never, you know me, my whole life, I never sat around and waited for nobody to give me nothing anyway. So that was okay. The adjusting comes when you really realize how long you've been gone and how much you don't know. Like, as far as a trade or actually provide, you know, because now once you get out here, you got to live, you know, bills and stuff. And let's just be honest. I mean, you know, for somebody in my situation, the best way for me to get in the plant would be through a temp service.
Right.
They're never going to let me get my 90 days. Somewhere in that 80 days, they're going to send me to another plant. And they're going to keep doing that. So getting hired in, getting benefits, actually thinking of a 401k and retiring at, 70? You know, I mean.
So you feel like that's any career situation that's out the door for you. So what is your ambition?
Not really. It's more along the lines of I have to do everything right.
Yeah.
Like the mistakes people got to make in their 20s and all that, and they had that safety net of time, and I don't have that. So I had to do everything right.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I can't, if I make a mistake, and I don't worry about going back to prison because I don't do nothing illegal.
Right.
But if I make a mistake, I end up homeless. If I make a mistake, you know, I end up going back to prison because that's definitely an option for the wrong mistake. But it's just like a setback to me really hurt because, for one, I got a job and not a career, you know. Due to the living situation and things like that. I mean, people say, well, just go to school and get that. Yeah, but I'm going to be homeless. You know, I can't afford to go to school. I have to work full time. I have to try to get me a 55-hour week. You know what I'm saying? I got to try to get overtime because I left prison with nothing. I still have nothing as far as when I compare myself to the other 41 or 40-year-olds, I have nothing. I'm more like a 20-year-old, 21-year-old right now, you know.
I tell you, my brother, you got a first of all, a great attitude towards where you at right now in life. And I'll tell you also that you have a desire. You said something, I don't know if you guys caught that. You said, I'm not going back to prison. Even though you said that situations can put you in a place where you feel like you have to do that. But I truly, and you said that last week too, I don't know if you noticed. So I just hats off to you that after everything you've been through, to have the positive attitude that you have. And
positive.
I think
tired of this. I know.
Right. Hey, I feel you on that too. But I think it's kind of like, and I used to watch G.I. Joe when I was a little kid. At the end, he used to always say, "Knowing is half the battle, baby."
Right.
So I feel like you know, and it's unfortunate that you had to take such a long vacation. But I'll tell you, I feel like you were most definitely on the right track. As far as that training, you know, continue to, bust your ass. Let's just keep it 100. And once you determine what it is you want to do, I'll tell you, I feel like the sky's the limit for you because your mindset is in the right place. And unfortunately, we know that when we started this journey that it wasn't for a lot of reasons. Some and even most were even out of your control. So I just want to say hats off to you on that.
Yeah, everybody deserves a second chance, So.
The bad part is with the second chance. I've never been to prison, but my understanding when you come out, they don't brief you on life. They don't decompress you from what you have dealt with. So they literally throw you into the mix and expect you to be a productive member with no resources or anything. I had a brother who got locked up. When he got out, you know, they call it a halfway house, but it's halfway in between what? You know, it doesn't, I haven't been to one yet that literally lays out everything on the table. Like, hey, look, while you here, we got this set up where you can get your education and you have to. We have this set up where you can get a trade and you have to. Like, they just throw them back out here, but then they like, don't fuck up. Well, how you expect me not to if you don't at least give me a map as to where I can go or what I can do to be a better and productive person of society.
Just a heads up of what's going on out here.
But the bad part is and a lot of officers I've heard before call it job security. It's not job security. It makes our society, to me, look horrible because a person who gets locked up and then gets out and they don't have any kind of resources.
Right.
That's bold on them.
Right, and that's why we had Mike in studio exactly to talk about that. Just because you bring up a great point, Shane. Thank you for that comment.
The American criminal justice system is a travesty, from your basic traffic ticket to people going to jail for murder. I'm like,
it's a merry-go-round.
It's just ridiculous, you know. You know, you're not innocent until proven guilty. You know, you're guilty and you have to prove yourself innocent. You know, I don't care what nobody says. You know, like I said, if you don't have any money to get an attorney, you screwed. And I'm like, that's not what the Constitution says, and that's not what the supposedly country was supposed to be founded on. You know, but again, what are we to do about that? You know, I have some ideas, but
what are they?
Hey,
do we have enough time? Because this
do.
a deep man.
Drop a couple on us.
No, my whole thing is like some of those militant groups up there. You know, I'm like, the government needs to be overthrown and restructured. You know, and then, like I said, a lot of people, hey, why do you say that? I'm like, this country was founded by terrorists.
I'm off parole.
Okay.
You know, I'm like, this country, this country was founded by terrorists. This was a piece of the United Kingdom, and the people that came over here said we was enough. We were tired of all of this, and they seceded from that. I'm like, that was terrorist. Technically, ain't that a terrorist act? So I'm
against
like,
Great Britain,
right?
But we ain't Great Britain no more. We're the United States.
Yeah, so
this
I'm like,
2020.
And you know what? So what? You know, you got to go back to them old practices. That's just my thinking. I'm like, a lot of old things that we don't do is why this country is so screwed up now. You don't forgot the old, and you going with all this nonsense.
You the spook that sat by the door for real.
I believe I read some of that book too.
That book was good.
I read some of it.
Hey.
One of the biggest injustices of the MDOC, but I'm gonna just say the Department of Corrections, period, because I talked to a lot of people from different states and various chats, and it's just the lack of information. Like she said, you sent us out here, you releasing these dudes, and if you know, all they did was play basketballs and spades for 5, 10, 15 years, then got out. I mean, what have you released into society?
Exactly.
You released a grown man with teenage children, maybe in a relationship, maybe not, but probably is about to get into one. So he's going to be in a position where he got to provide and be a man. And if he got any kind of principles and pride about himself, he's going to want to do that. But the problem is, and it's the roadblock I ran into, it was the complete lack of information. It was a complete lack of knowledge.
Exactly.
Of
you had
society.
the internet at your disposal. How easy was it you to fall into the trap of being online and having access to all these women and all the different things that you can get online?
Since I got out?
Yeah. Well, I don't know how your internet service is in prison, but
well, usually when you get phones, you know, when the COs sneak them in,
Oh, we know that happens.
I know, but like once you get out, if you got a stable living environment, you can do well.
Yeah.
Because you're used to sitting still and you probably develop some patience. So if you got the right living environment, and these people really going to give you the time you need for you to make the mistakes you're going to make, because once again, you reacclimated into a completely different world.
But what's the right living environment?
Just comfortable.
What's comfortable?
Yeah.
Comfortable.
Everybody
secure.
See,
comfortable to a guy who just didn't have nothing but 3 hots in the cot. Comfortable is knowing that you're not going to be homeless if this person get mad at you tomorrow.
This the bad part.
That don't exist. When you stand in somebody's house and do something that they don't like, you have to get out.
Hey, now the way society is with women, because we have come into a position where we make as much as or more than our counterparts.
Exactly.
And
well, according to the latest statistics, y'all make more than men now.
Don't be jealous. But but at the same time, even with that, does a woman who's making 40 plus a year, even if that's your baby daddy, y'all been like that since day one, he get locked up, oh, I got your back, I'm by you, I love you, and you get out, she dealing with the pressures of her job, the kids, paying the bills, making sure there's food on the table, trying to keep herself from looking like an Oompa Loompa. It's like she has all of that on her, and then, no pun intended, well, it don't apply to you, but no pun intended to anyone else, you have another kid who walks into your house who needs pretty
40.
much your attention. You gonna have to be that person that pushes him to, okay, you gonna have to help put something on the table. You gonna have to get a job. You gonna have to help with the kids. Well, if it's just like you said, somebody who's been sitting down and they can be patient, okay, well, where do we direct that patience and at the same time keep the patience with ourselves? Like, I got this grown motherfucker
The
in my
patience
house.
is going to come into, like, the best thing a sister could do is, make him work. Don't let him sit around and do nothing, but you got to understand he's not going to make the kind of money you making. He's probably not going to make enough money to really be a real difference when it comes to the bills. But push him to get that education that he don't have. Like, tell him go do HVAC. See, that's what I say. See, the lack of information, like, you got trades out here that don't take that long to get, 90 days, 6 months, some welding degrees and certificates, so push them to get some information, because when I say information, I mean the education. Is like, you can't make no money without a trade, without some paper. Some kind of degree, some kind of certificate, something. You need some paperwork. It don't matter if it's serve safe, and you OSHA certified to be the manager at Wendy's. It don't matter, but you need some kind of paper. What we run into when we get out here is life move like this, and don't no woman have no time to be watching you do your online courses, because it's about to be school about to let back in. And these kids need shoes and winter boots and coats and school clothes, uniforms. Your daughter, she in soccer and basketball. Your son is in football, so they done grew over the summer. They need all the uniforms for sports and school. Like, all this stuff is really there, and it's like, if he putting in them 70 hours a week, and he bringing in that nice check with that time and a half.
Right.
The only reason it's nice, you know what I'm saying? People fall in love with them checks. Yeah. But the thing is, this is a job. It's not a career. So when this job ends, he still don't know nothing.
So where you at right now? What's your focus and what's your ambition and your goals to get accomplished, to achieve what it is you're looking to achieve?
I like driving the trucks, so I just got to get this surgery on my spine to see if I'm going to still be able to do that. If I can't do that, then, like, my end game, my retirement plan always been to give me 10 or 15 rental properties.
Okay.
So it was like a 15-year plan. When I was in prison, I had a 15-year. I had 5, 10, 15-year plans. I never really thought I was going to get out in 2 or 3 years and boom, I'm straight, because I wasn't doing nothing illegal. I wasn't delusional. Like, I was lucky that my family at least kept me grounded enough to know it's not going to be easy when you get out here. So, my end game is to, hopefully I can get back in this truck. If I can get back on them trucks, I can buy me a property or 2 every year. Kind of, you know what I'm saying? And within 10 years, 5, 10 years,
right, you got what you need.
That's my plan. I just bought a house. I have a house.
Congratulations.
To live in. So now I gotta, you know what I'm saying? But like I told, I just treated for bed bugs and stuff. I ain't even moved in it yet.
Right.
But
and not to interrupt you here,
because
a great topic once again. Love having you on the show. Most definitely appreciate getting an opportunity to look at things from so many different aspects as well. Shay coming in and giving her insight. We most definitely going to have you back on because I think we can do a whole show on talking about that aspect. You know, how do you move in a relationship when your significant other, i.e. the female of the house, is making more money? How do we maintain those situations? I think that'd be a great topic.
And Monique said, who make the money make the rules.
Right. So
who's Monique? My Monique?
No, we ain't about to not your girl. We ain't about to start no
but
fight.
Unfortunately, guys,
right.
We'll do that off camera. We got to the end of another show here with Athena Protection. You guys are crazy.
Y'all ain't worth
Tap in, Monique. We need you to tap in right quick. I done heard.
No.
So I just want to say once again, to my resident here to my left, Marlon, thank you so much for being on the show with us today.
Hey.
And then most definitely, Mike, part 2. We could almost do a 3-part series on this, but we love having you on the show. Right. Again, I'll say that I think you your mindset is in the right place. I think you are going in the right direction. And I feel like, man, you know, the sky's the limit for you. Keep pushing. And like G.I. Joe said, knowing is half the battle.
Right.
Dan, once again, for bringing us together. Let's give our listeners one last quick shout out not a shout out, but tell them how they can get in touch with us.
You can always get in touch with us on our website at athenaprotections.com. You can give us a call at 800-951-4866. That's 1-800-951-4866, where you can reach us on any social media platform at Athena Protection Service.
All right, and make sure you're hitting those like buttons and sharing those. And we also want to shout out Podcast Detroit for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
So much more we'll talk about, but we'll have to see you guys next week. Or I'm sorry, we're going to have to take a break next week. We'll be back in 2 weeks.
All right.
But, hey, thanks again, everybody.
All right.
Pay them bills.
Mm-hmm.